Hi, I'm Aditi Hudley. Today I'll be speaking about computer forensics, specifically two applications, Cain and volatility. I hope you find this video useful. Password cracking using Cain Enable. Firstly, before we begin with the installation and the demo of Cain Enable, let's look at the background of computer forensics and password cracking in general. So what is computer forensics? Well, the definition that I have is computer forensics is the practice of collecting, analyzing, and reporting on digital data in a way that is legally admissible. It involves four main techniques: identifying, preserving, analyzing, and presenting. What seems to be the main crux of computer forensics is to present data, logs, passwords, search history, and other such data to a court, to the judge, so that they understand how such actions actually prove a certain person guilty of a certain cybercrime. The four main techniques and steps that are involved in computer forensics, as I said, were identifying, preserving, analyzing, and presenting. Firstly, as an analyst enters this crime scene, he or she must first identify what sources of evidence there are and how that data can be preserved. On having established this, then they continue to analyze the data for the login, logout logs, the log files, the password changes, the search history on browsers, deleted data. They recover some deleted files, which is a certain technique later on. And finally, they must be able to present this data in such a way that proves that person guilty of that crime. When preserving data, the analyst should be careful, because what happens is certain criminals would have kept virus triggers that if a third person is accessing the computer, the virus is triggered and the entire system is wiped. So for this, the analyst must be careful and knowledgeable enough to know how to preserve and access a criminal's computer. So now to move on to why computer forensics is actually relevant in today's society and today's industry, we should understand the background of computer forensics. So computer forensics began around 30 years ago in the US, when the law enforcement and the military investigators started seeing criminals get technical. So this is when they started stealing launch codes for rockets and bombs and all of that, and they started stealing stuff from the NSA. So this got the military involved. So the cybercrime division started initially from there. Then a few decades later and up to today, the field has exploded. The internet is vast and technology is advanced so far that sitting here in India, a person can hack a computer across the sea, all the way in America, which makes the importance of computer forensics and computer forensic analysts even more important. Nowadays, software companies continue to produce newer and more robust forensic software programs, and law enforcement and military continue to identify and train more and more of their personnel in response to the crimes involving technology, and which is cybercrime. So what we've understood now is the main goal of computer forensics is not only to find out who the criminal is, but also to find out and present the evidence in a manner that leads to certain legal action against the criminal. That is the main purpose of computer forensics. So, what are the different ways of digital investigation? So, when searched for computer forensic methodology, some 10 to 12 steps came up. They are: first, shut down the computer. Then, document the hardware configuration of the system. Third, transport the computer system to a secure location. Fourth, make a bitstream backup of hard disks and floppy disks. Fifth, mathematically verify data on all storage devices. Now, this fifth step is important because if a criminal deletes a file just before his computer is seized by the law enforcement agency, his computer wouldn't have had time to back up. So the checksums for the backup will still be the old checksums, not the new changed ones after the file has been deleted. So the law enforcement can easily tell that a certain specific file has been deleted and can use that checksum to recreate the deleted file. So now the sixth step, document the system date and time. Seventh, make a list of key search words. Eighth, evaluate the Windows swap file. 9. Evaluate the file stack. 10. Evaluate unallocated space, which is erased files. 11th, search files, file stack, and erased files for keywords. 12th, document file names, dates, and times. 13. Identify program, file, and storage anomalies. 14th, evaluate program functionality. 15th, document your findings. Background. So, what exactly is password cracking? So, when I was talking about how when an analyst enters a crime scene, they need to identify what they can access. So, suppose a criminal is left behind a computer, which is obviously password protected, as any personal laptop is. The first thing that the analyst should be able to do is crack the password. So, programs that decrypt or decipher encrypted passwords are known as password cracking programs. Some programs use comparative analysis to match encrypted versions of passwords to the original program. So that is what password cracking is. In cryptanalysis and computer security, password cracking is the process of recovering passwords from data that have been stored in or transmitted by a computer system. A common approach, which is brute force attack, is to try guesses repeatedly for the password and check them against an available cryptographic hash of the password. The purpose of password cracking might be to help a user recover a forgotten password. Installing an entirely new password is less of a security risk, although. But to install a new password, you will require system administrator privileges, which not everyone might have. Or to gain access to an unauthorized system, or as a preventive measure by system administrators to check easily crackable passwords. On a file-by-file basis, password cracking is utilized to gain access to digital evidence for which a judge has allowed access, but the particular file's access is restricted because of what the criminal has done to it. So it can be used in a variety of ways. Password cracking can also be used in a positive light, not only in a negative light, to access unauthorized passwords or unauthorized files. Digital forensic investigators need to forensically analyze digital data in order to investigate various crime cases. Quite often, the investigators come across password protection for the digital data they need to investigate. Therefore, they need to crack passwords in order to gain access to potential evidence. There exist various problems in the field of password cracking due to technological advances in security. It currently takes and is expected to continue taking large amounts of time for digital forensic investigators to crack passwords. Due to the large amount of time required to crack the passwords, the costs involved in cracking the passwords are also high. There also exists an ambiguity with regards to the outcome of password cracking procedure. Thus, there is a risk that the forensic investigator might not be able to find the correct password even after spending large amounts of time and money. Apart from the ambiguity of the outcome, the large password cracking times, there also exists an uncertainty regarding the amount of time the password may take to crack, depending upon which method of cracking is used. The use of passwords for securing data is a common practice for computer users. Passwords are used as a security mechanism to protect the privacy and confidentiality of data on computers. Passwords are used for a variety of applications. For example, securing a person's email account, bank account, computer, or private data in files or spreadsheets. Password protection not only ensures authentication of the user accessing the data, but in many cases, it also supports encryption for the entity that needs to be protected. Encryption ensures the privacy of the data, such that only the legitimate user can have access to the information. Therefore, any illegitimate user who does not have access password is unable to access the encrypted information. Passwords have proved to be optimal for security. However, passwords can also be used by people with malicious intent. A malicious person may use passwords and encryption to protect incriminating information from the access of law enforcement agencies. If the law enforcement agencies or forensic investigators are not provided with the password, it may not be possible for them to gain important evidence. Such a situation could hamper justice, as a malicious person may not be prosecuted in a court of law without credible evidence. Therefore, in such situations, law enforcement agencies need to resort to various means of password recovery in order to gain access to the encrypted information. One of the most common methods for overcoming password protection is password cracking. Password cracking can be done using a variety of tools and techniques, the most common of which is used is automated software to try various possible guesses until the correct password is found. Other techniques involve the use of brute force cracking methods, rainbow tables, and also Markov chains. Hence, in order to recover passwords, law enforcement agencies need to use a variety of password cracking tools such as Cain and Abel, John the Ripper, and Offcrack. False. What are the major drawbacks of password cracking in today's forensic world? There exist a variety of problems for the digital forensic investigators in the field of password cracking. One major problem is the speed of password cracking. Due to improvements in security, the amount of time it takes to crack passwords encrypted with the latest secure algorithms is increasing. Thus, as security improves and advances, the number of challenges for digital forensic investigators also increases. Another problem in the field of password cracking is the ambiguity in estimating whether or not the correct password will be found. If the password is very difficult and the encryption algorithm is secure, it is not possible to assume that the password will definitely be cracked. Also, a measure of probability for determining the chances of finding a correct password does not exist since the password being searched for is unknown. Just as discussed, the two major problems in the field of password cracking are the decreasing speed of password cracking and the ambiguity of the outcome of the password cracking process. These two major problems are the cause of even more problems and challenges for the digital forensic investigator. Password cracking is slow for strong passwords and passwords that are encrypted with a strong algorithm. Due to such slow speeds, it takes a lot of time to crack these passwords. This in turn leads to an increase in the amount of time associated legal cases can be resolved. The slow speed of password cracking and thus legal resolution also causes an escalation of the costs involved. Also, the cost involved for resolving legal cases becomes very high due to the amount of time required. It's a vicious cycle. More time, therefore more cost, and more cost, therefore more time. It is therefore a challenge to manage the time and also the cost for password recovery. There are also other challenges for the digital forensic investigator. If the information to be accessed is in encrypted form, it is difficult to know whether or not the information is relevant to the investigation. Therefore, it's challenging to identify relevant information without cracking the password. Depending on the case, the digital forensic investigator may also have other challenges with regards to accessing the evidence. There may be social engineering challenges. For example, social engineering the suspect to allow an investigator to stealthily steal the password or gain clues to get the password. There may also be technical challenges. For example, there may be a forensic investigator to gain access over the suspect's computer over the internet. There exists a variety of advice for a digital forensic investigator, but there is no standard practice available for the forensic analyst to apply to definitively gain access to an encrypted file or computer. Now onto the software Cain Enable. The Cain Enable password recovery tool for Microsoft operating systems allows recovery of various kinds of passwords by sniffing the network, cracking encrypted passwords using dictionary, brute force, cryptanalysis attacks, decoding scrambled passwords, revealing password boxes, uncovering cached passwords, and analyzing routing protocols. Now let me just explain what a couple of these decryption methods are. In the dictionary method, what happens is the hash of the password is provided and is checked against a list of possible passwords. Another method of decryption that hasn't been mentioned here is also by mere guessing. If you're close enough to the person who owns the laptop and who set the password, you may be able to guess what the person may or may not have used as the password. Then brute force attack. So what happens is when you enter a password, the hash is formed. So what this program does is it matches every possible combination of letters and numbers from a certain given set of letters and numbers to see if any of those hashes match the same hash as the password, then, even then, the chances of actually getting the correct password are slim, purely because brute force attack takes so long. Now, where Cain is the main analysis tool, the Able NT service provides a remote console on the target machine, which can dump over user hashes from the remote SAM even if it was encrypted using the syskey utility and other features like LSA secrets dumper, the root table manager, and the TCP UDP table viewer. An interesting feature of Cain and Able is the APR, which is the, ironically, ARP poisoning routing, which enables sniffing on a switched LAN by hijacking IP traffic or multiple hosts at the same time. The sniffer can also analyze encrypted protocols such as SSH1 and HTTPS if used with APR and a man-in-the-middle situation. Cain also comes with routing protocol authentication monitors, root extractors, crackers for all common hashing algorithms and other various specific authentications, password calculators, specifically ones such as Cisco, PIX hashes, RSA secure ID tokens, decoders such as Access Databases, Base64, Cisco Type 7, Enterprise Manager, Dial-Up, Remote Desktop. Also, the Cisco Configuration Downloader Uploader, the SID Scanner, LSA Secrets Dumper, Protected Storage Passwords Viewer, NT-Hash Dumper, the Able Remote Console, and the Mac Scanner to very obviously find out the MAC of the computer, Promiscuous Mode Scanner, Wireless Scanner, and others. The current version of Cain and Able is limited to use on the same physical network segment. Switch segments work fine. However, remote sniffing is not enabled. It will work on a wireless network as well with select supported NICs. WEP cracking is in progress but is not completed as of 2014. Network administrators as well as hackers will find uses for this software. A network administrator might use the password cracking feature to audit a system for weak or non-existent passwords. By the same token, a hacker could gain illicit entry into a system this way. The remote control features of Cain and Able allow for activities such as these to be carried out from a different location on the network. APR can be used to examine traffic to and from a remote computer on a switched network for auditing or nefarious purposes. Other features are available, but a few of these possible good and bad uses of Cain and Able have just been mentioned. At least security personnel should have a working knowledge of what this package does and how it can be used. oxid.it is the website for Massimiliano Montoro. He has many free software tools available, including Cain and Able. So now that we've seen all the features of Cain and Able, we can go on to the installation and the actual demo of this software tool. So we start here with a few basic features that I've lifted from the website. They say that it's a password cracker for NT hashes, trace route with DNS resolver and whois client, root table manager, users, group, shares, and services enumeration, access for the 98 series of computers, 2000 series, and the XP, which is basically the legacy computers for Windows, password decoder, and processor information. So over here I've listed out the steps involved for the installation process. So we start by going to the website, and you will also need to install WinPCAP for Cain enable installations, as that's where the passwords will be saved. So we'll just go here. Mind you, this is an old website, so I advise against using this on Chrome and using this instead on Microsoft Edge. I'll just pause here for a second and open it there. So here is actually the homepage that is visible when we click on the link. So as according to the steps, we go to project. Now we go and click on Cain and Able. Over here we download this version, that is download Cain Enable version 4.9.56 for Windows NT 2000 and XP. They've also given the MD5 and SHA1 hashes underneath. So since internet is always a problem, I have downloaded it and installed it. The installation process is quite straightforward. You just say next, 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 agree to the license, and install it. It'll be installed on your C drive by default. So what I'll do is I'll once again pause and open up the software. So when you open it up, this is what it looks like. So as you can see over here, we have the decoders, the network tab, sniffer, cracker, trace route, CCDU, wireless, and query. So right now I'm connected to the internet through wireless and not through Ethernet. So it won't be able to identify me on any network, though it can identify computers on the network, as you can see here. So we should be getting, I think, 2 over here. One which should be the Microsoft user group, and one which is my own laptop. I don't mind the computer, it's a little slow. Yeah. So over here we have the Microsoft account and the work group, as I suggested. So we'll just see what's under these tabs as well. Here you have the IP address, MAC, fingerprint, host name. This is for sniffers, for packet sniffing on an IP network. So now we have the cracker. You have the various encryption algorithms over here on the side. Kerberos pre-authentication hashes over here. Oracle hashes here. MD4, SHA1 and 2. The Cisco iOS MD5, Cisco PIX MD5 hashes. We have traceroute. I like to trace from Google, but as I've mentioned, I am not on an Ethernet cable, so the IP address is masked. Another thing to note is before running this app, you have to make sure to have your firewall disabled. So we'll go back here, check on that. That's still taking some time, so I'll just pause and restart the video when it is complete. As you can see, you can trace the packet routes over here, but because I'm not on Ethernet and I can't tell, and so my IP address is being masked. So why don't we go over here to the wireless part, and we see the wireless networks available in the area. So we active scan. We'll see the wireless networks coming here now. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 networks in the area with their signal strength, their mode, the channel, their rates, and their BSS ID, and when the network was last seen. So as we can see here, the last seen was by us using this app. Another thing which we can do from using this is, we can view the processor information. As you can see, I have a Dell Inspiron, so I have an Intel core which can be seen over here. There are many other things that can be done with this particular software tool, given the right person uses it, and it should be used for the right reasons. Suppose you have 2 accounts on your laptop, both administrative privileges, and you've forgotten the password for one. If Cain is installed, you can retrieve the password for the other account. We should keep in mind that this sort of technology was built to help us rather than to be used for malicious and nefarious purposes, such as hacking into someone else's account, viewing their private email IDs, viewing their private accounts, viewing private files, etc. I hope I have helped you a little bit about understanding about computer forensics, cyber forensics, or digital forensics, and I've showed you an insight into the kind of tools that are used. Thank you for watching.